Just got home from work. It's noisy out here because this road usually doesn't see much traffic, but people use it as a link between one town to the next town. So you'll get a lot of traffic here, like in the morning, prior to most people getting ready to go to work, when they're just coming out and they're heading towards the highway, and correlating time in the evening. People get off work and they're about ready to arrive home. They'll cut through here. So there'll be a lot of traffic through here right now. Apparently, 100 years ago or more, this house was positioned closer to that little riverbank there, which has some of the best trout fishing, by the way, in the U.S. And they somehow moved the original part of this house up here. I don't know how they did that, but they used to do a lot of things back then just on sheer stubbornness and work ethic that you would think they couldn't do. Stone house, how the hell do you move it? But they moved the original portion of the house, which is all stone. They moved it up here. This is Harley. She's not named after the motorcycle, which you may hear one of those in the background. She had that name when we got her. Her name is, and she hates motorcycles, by the way. Oddly enough, it's ironic. And her full name is Harley Quinn. And she had that name. Since we got her, she had been on the streets for most of her life. She's still a pretty young dog, a couple years old. But she's, has a lot of scars from bites and stuff, and some really hellacious scars. And she's a pit mix. And she's kind of had a sad story until we got her. And now I wasn't going to get her. I didn't want another dog. But almost a year ago, it'll be a year the day before Easter, which really particularly sucks, that my longtime best friend, Baby, the dog I had, got her when she was just a tiny puppy, a beautiful little pit bull. She passed away. She's gone. She had a brain tumor, which cost a ridiculous amount of money to diagnose. Have MRI or CAT scan or whichever, I don't even remember which it was now, but it was a ridiculous amount of money. It's cheaper to do a human being. So she's gone, and I didn't want to get another dog, but my girl, she has a really big heart. She's an animal lover, loves animals, and she has a long history of working with animals, at volunteering at shelters and adoption agency things and stuff, and no-kill shelters. And this dog's story was one of her friends that had known her, from those circles, contacted her and said that this dog, this wonderful dog with lots of potential, was getting ready to be euthanized because she had been adopted out once, was only gone for about 2 months, and she bit somebody. And they brought her back, of course, and they retrained her. She was adopted out again. She bit somebody after like 2 to 3 months. So that was the last chance she was going to get, and if she came back to the shelter, she was going to be euthanized. She was already scheduled to be euthanized. And the only chance that she had for a reprieve was if we offered to take her and interceded, and they could just make a beeline here and not take her back to the shelter. And that meant that the agency had to, come check out our home and check us out, make sure we were suitable, and especially all the more with the dog's history now. And of course I knew that we were a shoo-in, because any animal that we have is going to have the life. And this dog absolutely has the life. But I know a lot about dogs. Baby was so well trained. Of course, she was like an Einstein of dogs anyway. She was so well trained that she understood voice commands hand signals with no sound, all kind of things. She knew left from right. So I have some experience with animal psychology, I guess, or why they behave the way they do and things working with animals, training animals. Actually, I have a pretty good knack for it. So this dog, having come from the streets, having been homeless on the streets for the majority of her life, and when she was found, she was pregnant, so she had puppies at the shelter, which they took from her. So the dog's never really had her own anything. Everything that she had to fight to keep or eat it on the spot, before somebody or another animal could take it from her. So she has all the scars that bear testimony to the life that she's lived. And one of her huge problems was food aggression. And the 2 times she has bitten anyone was food aggressively, where she had food in her mouth and somebody tried to take it out of her mouth. And people were advised that this was a problem. But her food aggressiveness, the first thing I needed to address was that, because that was the threatening behavior. And that was what had gotten her into trouble. It almost cost her life. And still could. So what I realized was they had her, people who've previously owned her, they had her on a schedule where she was fed twice a day or whatever it was. Okay, well, that dog is used to being on the street and having to fight for everything. That anything it has possession of, it has to be able to fight to maintain possession. Or it just has to eat it and be done with it so that no one else can get to it. If it's a food item or whatever, right? Dog doesn't have the luxury of, a place to store anything safely that belongs to the dog. There's no area that is clearly belongs to the dog. The dog can only maintain what it can defend. So if you feed a dog like that on a schedule, my opinion, works for me. Worked dynamite. Couldn't work any better for me. You're free to disagree if you want, but if you got a dog with a similar problem and it's not quite working out so well, you might want to try something else like this. Just makes good sense. It's just common sense. So first thing that I decided is, can't feed this dog on a schedule like that. I want to get the dog to where the dog realizes that this is your food, this is your bowl, and the food belongs to you and it's available to you anytime you want it. First thing. Now, people are going to say, well, then the dog's going to get fat, the dog's going to want to eat all the time, all this, and if some kind of a food issue develop. Well, first thing, you got to get rid of the aggressiveness. And if the aggressiveness is related to food aggression, in the case of an animal that's been on the street and can only possess what it can defend, then of course, when it's eating, it's going to really be aggressive, potentially aggressive to anybody or anything. So the first thing I did was eliminate any scheduled feeding. Keep the dog's bowl full. Let the dog know that, see how the dog reacts to that. And if the dog comes to the realization that, okay, this is my place now. I don't know how long I'm going to be here, but apparently this is my home and this is my bowl. And these are my things. The dog has its own things, and let the dog know these are the dog's things. With the food, leave it there all the time. Make sure that dog always has food available. And in doing that, hopefully, the dog won't feel like it has to hurry up and eat it and get it gone, because it can sit there all day eventually, and it'll realize that nobody else is going to come after it. No one's going to take it. It's not going to go anywhere if she doesn't eat it. It's still there. It's hers. And you know what? It worked. Now, if it hadn't worked in this instance, then I'm not sure where I would have went. I would have come up with something else, but it worked beautifully. Now, the cat can come over near the dog while the dog eats, and the dog's cool. I can take the bowl away from the dog while the dog's eating out of it if I want to, and do something else with it and play with the food and then put it back. No problems, because the dog realizes that the dog doesn't always have that. And first indication you have is it's working is the dog doesn't just eat down all the food, like gobble it down, in an instant. The dog doesn't just eat it all down. The dog will, hear something and go check it out or wander off, or you can call the dog, and the dog's not stressed out about leaving the food, You know, so some days, if the dog didn't feel like eating all the food will sit there half a day just in the bowl. And she doesn't just stand guard and watch it. You know, she can let it come and go and leave the food there. So the dog realizes now, this is your home, this is your food, this is your bowl, yours. No one's going to try and take it from you, it belongs to you. You can take your time and eat it at your leisure. And guess what? No more food aggressiveness. No more food aggressiveness. You know, now my other dog, Baby, was so good, she would move over and let any other animal eat out in the bowl alongside her. That's what a sweet dog she was. What a good dog she was. But she was spoiled. She knew, you know, food's plentiful. Cat would drink out of her water bowl with her. Cat would stay on her back sometimes so he could see up higher while the dog was eating. Which was, I mean, they were like best buddies. They played all the time together. Yeah. Anyway, I know this isn't bodybuilding or muscle related. I'm kind of dragging butt, you know, between working and I got to write another diet up tonight. I'm almost caught up. Then I can make some more really decent videos and go out to gyms and do some things. But as soon as this Arnold is over next week, we have plans to go on road trips, and there's going to be, you know, to some really well-known gyms that you probably haven't seen or heard of, but for us in the area, they're staples. They're staples, and a lot of pros, especially on the East Coast, have trained there just because they're old school, hardcore type gyms that are run by, you know, older fellas that, you know, are old school and were competitive, and some of them have won, you know, national titles and professional titles back in their day. So we got a lot of really cool stuff coming up and a lot more outreach stuff. I'm going to start to videotape it, and we're going to hit it hard and heavy. When we get back from the Arnold, we'll rest up the rest of the week, and by the weekend, the channel's going to have a really huge resurgence. All right, you guys take care. And I may be back this evening and maybe back tomorrow. I don't know. Very busy guy lately, but I'm almost caught up. Thanks for your patience and have a great night.